Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're having a good weekend. There was a real classic old versus new, the old gnarled warhorse taking on the young gun, and that was a lightweight contest on the Sonny Edwards Galaya Fight headliner on DAZN. It took place between Cameron Vuong and Gavin Gwynne, and there were 12 years difference between these two fighters. Vuong is 22, Gwynne 34, and Gwynne, let's talk about Gwynne first of all, because he is a former British, Commonwealth and European champion, very, very established, probably at the back end of his career, I would say at 34. He came in with 17 wins, 5 KOs, 3 defeats. Like I say, he'd won all the major belts except for a world title. He scored good wins over Craig Woodruff. He was the first man to beat Emiliano Marcelli. That gave him the EBU title, the proper, European title. And he'd beaten people like Sean McComb, who was previously undefeated. He lost a stoppage to James Tennyson. And also in his last fight, which was over in Riyadh, he got stopped in 4 rounds by Mark Chamberlain. Chamberlain at the time was undefeated, and Gwynne suffered a fractured eye socket. I think it was the lower part of the eye socket got fractured. So he was coming back and going in there against Cameron Vuong, who was only a 6-0 fighter with 3 KOs. And this was a real calculated gamble for Cameron Vuong, because Gwynne, he's not a shot fighter by any stretch of the imagination, as was shown in this fight. But his handlers obviously thought, this is a calculated gamble, but it's one we can win, and he did win it. And there were a few boos when the unanimous decision was announced. The scores were 97-94, 96-95, and 96-94. I think I had this 96-94 in favour of Vuong. I think the boos were probably because Gwynne gave such a fantastic account of himself. But the slicker punches, the more hurtful punches, the more precise punching came from Vuong. Now, the fight, when it started, was going to pan out. There's only one way it could have panned out, and that is with Gwynne coming forward with a high guard, looking to put it on Vuong, take him the full 10 rounds. Gwynne had been 12 rounds 4 times, so the 10 rounds didn't bother him at all. But for Vuong, this was it wasn't unknown territory, because he'd won a grueling decision over Jeff Ofori. That was early this year, mid-year. And I think that's the only time he's the only time he went 12. Prior to that, he'd done a few 6 rounds. I think he went 8 with a journeyman whose name escapes me. That was his last fight, I think. So taking on Gwynne over 10, it wasn't unknown territory for Vuong, but it was certainly going to be very easy for Gwynne. And Gwynne showed himself to be anything but, like I say, a shot fighter. It's just not true. He constantly came forward, as we expected, and it was going to be down to Cameron Vuong to contain Gwynne's charges, to land the slicker punches, to ride out any storms. And he did all of that. Now, that's not to say it was easy. Jesus Christ, no, it wasn't easy, because Gwynne was getting up close and was letting his hands go, straight punches and, some hooks thrown in. But Vuong was able to land the counters very, very well. Gwynne had a lot of damage around the eyes. His left eye, he had a bad swelling, bad sort of discoloration. There was a cut over one of his eyes. Which one was that now? So the left eye, I think it might have been. The right eye had some damage as well. This, damage to the face, as I said in another recent video, it doesn't necessarily indicate that the fight is as one-sided as you might think, because, of course, if you're banging to the body, you can't see the effect the body punches have. If you land on the jaw, unless you break the jaw or, knock out a tooth or something, you can't really see the full impact of all the damage that's been done to the fighter. But yes, very, very good counters from Vuong, very precise punching. But now I would say he sort of contained Gavin Gwynne, but he didn't discourage him, because Gwynne was coming forward and he was getting clocked, and but he was still landing his own punches, lots of little flurries, and really making Vuong work for those rounds. But to be honest with you, even though there was a point round about the 6th, 7th round where you were thinking, I wonder if Vuong's slowing down a bit, he didn't. He really did grit his teeth, keep his composure, and stick to his game plan, and was able to, I wouldn't say ride out the storm, but he was able to just, stay disciplined and get his work done, and deserved the win, I think. This is only his 7th fight. So to beat a recent former European champ, British champ, Commonwealth champ, a guy who's had, a lot more experience than he has, who's beaten some very, very good men, good domestic European level fighter, I think it's fair to say that he'll have learned a lot from that fight, Vuong. I mean, again, I keep using the phrase a calculated gamble, but it was. And also, he'll have learned from the Jeff Ofori 10-rounder as well. This guy's being brought along very, very well, I think. And I hope they don't. I hate it when they sort of try and do these quantum leaps. To me, Vuong at 22 should be going for, area English, British, Commonwealth, European, and then on to world. Do it the old-fashioned way. He's got so much time. He's only 22 years old. For Gavin Gwynne, okay, he's 34, but he did not look like a fighter who is near retirement. He's had tough fights, a lot of tough fights. And if he was to call it a day, I mean, he's been European champ, he's been British and Commonwealth champ. That's a fantastic career in itself. But if he wants to, he's got to go back to maybe domestic level, pick up the British again. But don't rule him out. He's still a very, very good fighter, probably a bit past his best, but by no stretch of the imagination is he finished. It's a question of whether you want to do it, of course. But for Cameron Vuong, he's got all this time. He's got probably, the boxing world at his feet. If he lives the life, stays dedicated, doesn't get all silly and allow his ego to take over. I don't think it will. So what did you think? Let me know what you thought of this fight. I thought it was a good, tough, grueling 10-rounder. Really enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button. Cost you nothing. And also subscribe to the channel if you're new. That'd be fantastic as well. Build up the channel. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always. I'll read your comments and answer as many as I can. And more to come later. Until then, bye for now.